Hello students, how are you? So in the previous video of weather, climate and adaptations, we discussed about weather. Okay, we started, let's revise it again. We started from different kinds of activities that we do with respect to weather. We take a look. When the weather is hot, we tend to wear light color clothes. When the weather is cold, we tend to wear dark color clothes. Okay, the next topic that we discussed was humidity. Very important. I told you that humidity is the amount of water vapor present in the surroundings. Okay, whatever the concentration of the water vapor that are present in the surrounding is known as the humidity. Okay, if the atmosphere contains high water vapor, then the weather is said to be too humid, okay, or highly humid. And if amount of water vapor in the atmosphere is less, then the climate, or sorry, not climate, weather is said to be less humid. Okay, I told you during a humid day means if amount of water vapor is high, then the wet clothes take time to dry it. Why? Because already the atmosphere has a lot of water vapor in it, so it cannot hold more water vapor extra. Okay, and in case when there is less humidity, what happens? The clothes get dried easily because the atmosphere can hold the water vapor easily. Okay, and then we talked about that humidity is expressed in percentage. Okay, 100% humidity means that the atmosphere is completely saturated with water vapors, means that the atmosphere cannot hold more amount of water vapor at that particular temperature. Okay, means it is the maximum amount of, if humidity is 100% at a particular temperature, it means that it is the maximum amount of water vapor that surroundings can hold. Okay, but it can change with respect to temperature. Okay, so this was what about humidity. Then we talked about weather. We talked about different kinds of weather, that was hot, humid, cold, rainy, windy, etc. Okay, and then we discussed what are the few factors, or you can say elements of the weather that decide what kind of weather it is. These are temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, and etc. Okay, I told you that further studies, or you can say expanded studies of these particular things can help us to predict the weather in advance. And then we discussed that what produces weather, means what is the reason for the change in weather. Then we talked about that due to the sun's heat the land gets warm, and due to the land gets warm, the air above it also gets warm. And as we know that the hot or the warm air is lighter than the cool air, so it rises up, and the place there is emptied, or we can say the place there is of low pressure when the air goes up. Okay, so that's why the air then moves from high pressure to low pressure, and this movement of air leads to the wind. Okay, from high pressure to the low pressure. We discussed it in the breeze also. We discussed sea breeze and the land breeze. This was the same reason, that air travels from high pressure area to low pressure area, and that's why it causes wind. Okay students, so this was what we discussed, when or how does the weather change. So what was the main reason? That it is due to the sun heat radiation. The heat radiations that are coming from the sun, they tend to heat the surface of the earth and water also. Okay, which due to which the water converts into water vapor. And then we discussed that weather of a place is not constant, it keeps on changing. Okay, then about temperature, we discussed that for a particular day the highest temperature reached during a day is known as maximum temperature, and the lowest temperature reached during a day is known as minimum temperature. Okay students, and it is measured by a special kind of thermometer, that is maximum and minimum thermometer. Okay, then I told you that the scientific study of weather is meteorology, and scientists who study and forecast weather are called meteorologists. Okay, so the topic that we are going to start today is weather reports. Okay, the daily weather report carries information about the temperatures, humidity, rainfall during the past 24 hours. It also gives the timings of sunrise, sunset, moonrise and moonset. Okay, Again, the daily weather report, what does it tell? It tells about the temperature, humidity, rainfall during the past 24 hours. It also gives the timing of sunrise, sunset, moonrise and moonset. Okay. Okay. The weather report also predicts the weather for the day. You must have seen in the mobile also that it can tell, or it tells the weather of coming 2 to 3 days in advance. Okay. So, what is it? It is a prediction. For example, the maximum temperature is written 33 degrees Celsius plus 3 and minimum is 16 degrees Celsius plus 2. The time of moonset is given, time of moonrise is given, sunset is given in sunrise. Sunset it is 5:34 p.m. and sunrise it was 6:36 a.m. Okay, and the atmospheric condition is also given: clear sky, mist in the morning, maximum and minimum temperature will be around 33 degrees Celsius and 17 degree Celsius. Okay, then another important aspect is given: humidity. Okay, maximum humidity on Sunday 82% and minimum humidity is 29%. So these are the constituents of a weather report. These all the things are included in the weather report. Okay. First point, the weather report tells us that the maximum temperature during the past 24 hours was 33 degree Celsius. The figure plus 3 in bracket means that this maximum temperature is 3 degrees Celsius above normal. Means what the normal temperature would have been, it is 3 degree higher than that. Okay, I told you when I was discussing the weather report, there was a figure written, for example, like 33 degrees Celsius in the bracket plus 3. So that plus 3 means that this temperature is 3 degrees Celsius above normal. Okay. The minimum temperature during the past 24 hours is shown to be 16 degrees Celsius, and the figure plus 2 again in bracket means that this minimum temperature is 2 degrees Celsius above normal. Okay. So, I hope the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature is clear to you. And I told you that it is not that this 33 degrees Celsius is for the whole day, or you can say for the 12 hours. No, it keeps on changing every hour or every time by time. Okay. Second point, the weather report tells us that the moon will set on Monday at 9:30 p.m. and will rise on Tuesday at 11:55 p.m. It also informs us that sun will set on Monday at 5:34 p.m. in the evening and sun will rise on Tuesday at 6:36 a.m. in the morning. Third point, sky will remain clear, which means no cloud, but there will be mist in the morning. The maximum and minimum temperatures predicted for the day are around 33 degrees Celsius and 17 degrees Celsius. The maximum humidity recorded in the past 24 hours was 82% and the minimum humidity was 29%. Fifth, since rainfall does not occur every day, so no rainfall has been recorded in the above weather report during the past 24 hours. Okay, so this was the explanation of all the points that is included in a weather report. The times of sunrise and sunset also change during the year. During summer, sunrise is early and the sunset is late. Due to this, days are longer in summers and nights are shorter. During winter, the sunrise is late but the sunset is early, and due to this, the days are shorter in winter but nights are longer. Okay. So what happens in summer, that the time of sunrise, it is early in the morning, okay, and sunset happens late in the evening. So what does it do? That increases the length of the day, okay, and decreases the length of the night. So that's why it is said that due to this, in the summer season, days are longer and nights are shorter. But in winters, what happens, that the sunrise is usually late, okay, and sunset is early. So what happens, that the days are shorter in winter but nights are longer. Okay. So I hope that weather report is clear to all of you. let's move on to the next topic, climate. Okay students, let's start climate. The average weather pattern at a place taken over a long period is called climate. If the temperature at a place is high most of the time, then we say that the climate of that place is hot. If there is heavy rainfall on most of the days at that place, then we say that climate of that place is hot and wet, that is hot and humid. Okay, so the average weather pattern at a place taken over a long period of time is called climate. And if we talk about weather, it was for a short period of time. Okay, it kept on changing, even from hour to hour, day to day, weeks to weeks, it kept on changing. But what is climate? The average weather pattern for a long period of time. Okay, now let's take a look at 4 major types of climates in the world. The first one is the polar climate. Polar climate is always very cold. Polar regions have the coldest climate in the world. The air is so cold in polar regions of the earth that water falls there as snow. So the air contains very little water vapor at the poles. Thus polar climate is extremely cold and dry. Okay, what does it say? That it say that their air is so cold in polar region that polar region of the earth, that water falls there as snow. Why? Because the temperature there is generally less than 0 degrees Celsius, and we know that water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, and if the temperature will be below 0 degrees Celsius, then the water will be in the form of snow, or we can say ice. Okay, and that's why the water vapor also present in the atmosphere is very less, and that's why it is said that the polar climate is extremely cold and dry. Okay students, next one is the temperate climate. A climate which is neither very hot in summer nor very cold in winter is called temperate. In temperate climate there is moderate rain and snowfall. Okay, means everything is moderate, neither very hot nor very cold, means at the temperature also moderate, and the rainfall and the snowfall is also moderate in the temperate climate. Okay students, clear? Third is tropical climate. A climate having very high temperatures and high humidity is called tropical climate. Thus tropical climate is very hot and humid, and there is usually a lot of rain in tropical climate. You might have listened to the name of tropical rainforest. Okay, so they are actually very hot and also humid because of the maximum rainfall over there. Okay, then comes desert climate. Desert climate is very hot during the day. There is little rain, or we can say very little rain in desert areas, so the desert climate is also dry. Thus desert climate is very hot and dry. Okay, so we discussed 4 types of climate in the world. Again, the first one was polar climate. The polar climate is very cold and dry. Okay, then was the temperate climate. We can say that it was moderately hot and moderately cold, and the rainfall and the snowfall was also moderate. Okay, then we discussed about tropical climate. A climate having very high temperatures and high humidity, means the temperature is also high and rainfall is also high. This kind of climate is tropical climate. And the next one was the desert climate, and because we know that it is very hot during the day, the temperature is very high, so the desert climate is very hot and dry. Okay, why dry? Because there is very little rain in the desert areas. Now why does there is so change in the climate on the earth's surface? Let's discuss. See, our climate depends on our position on the earth and our distance from the sun. Definitely when we were discussing the weather, the more the heat radiations of the sun will be coming, more will be the temperature. Okay, so that's why it is saying that our climate depends on our position on the earth and our distance from the sun. The regions around the equator of earth, called tropical regions, where the sun shines directly overhead, get the maximum heat from the sun and have a very hot climate. As a region gets more and more away from the equator, means if we move towards the poles, the amount of sun's heat received by the region goes on decreasing. Why? leading, because this time the sun is not overhead, okay, and this leading to gradually cooler climates. The poles of the earth are at maximum distance from the sun. So due to this, the sun's rays have to travel much more to reach the polar regions of the earth, which makes them lose much of their heat. And that's why the polar regions of the earth, that is the north pole and the south pole of the earth, receive minimum amount of sun's heat. So the polar region of earth have an extremely cold climate. Okay, the climate in the tropical region is very hot, whereas that in polar region is extremely cold. The tropical regions and the polar regions are the two regions of the earth which have extreme climatic conditions. Okay, so very important line, this one, that the tropical regions and the polar regions are the two regions of the earth which have extreme climatic conditions. Okay, see what happens, everything is based on the distance of a position from sun. As we know that tropical regions where the sun shines directly overhead, so that's why the amount of heat coming from the sun is maximum in the tropical region. But as we move away from the tropical region towards either north pole or towards south pole, any of them, what happens, first the distance increases from the sun, and secondly the sun cannot directly affect that poles region. Okay, so the amount of heat that is reaching the poles is not much. Why? Because the distance become larger. Okay, so as a region gets, the region that will get more and more heat, it will have high temperature, as in the case of tropics or tropical, and the region which will get less amount of heat, the temperature will be lower, as seen in the polar regions. Okay, so as a region gets more and more away from the equator, means if we say towards the pole, the amount of sun goes on decreasing or heat goes on decreasing, leading to gradually cooler climates. Okay, and why the reason that tropical have high temperature? Because the sun is shining directly overhead. Okay, so these two regions, tropical regions and the polar regions are the two regions of the earth which have extreme climatic conditions. Okay, so students, this is a very important part. It is asked many a times that what are the factors or how does the climate change, or why there is such change in climate that tropics are very hot and humid, whereas poles, the polar region, is extremely cold and dry. Okay, two extreme conditions you can see, extremely hot and humid also, and the poles are extremely cold and dry also. So just opposite of each other, so we can say that extreme climatic conditions. Okay students, clear? Okay students, so please read this paragraph again. I am giving you the time. Okay students, so I hope you have read it. Let's move forward. Now the next topic is the factors which affect climate. The first factor that affect climate is temperature and rainfall. We all know that if the temperature will be high, then it will be said to be a hot climate, and if the temperature will be low, then it will said to be a cold climate. And similarly with the rainfall, if amount of rainfall is high, then it is said to be humid, because the amount of water vapor present in the surroundings is very high, and if amount of rainfall is very low, then the surroundings or the atmosphere is relatively less water vapor. So we can say that the surroundings of the climate is dry. Okay. Next one is altitude. Whether place is located on high mountains or on plains. Okay, this weather is different. This one is not that weather that we discussed. Okay, whether place is located on high mountains or on plains, flat grounds. A place at higher altitude will have a cooler climate than other places on the plains. This is why hill stations always have a cool climate. Okay, I told you student, when we go to certain height, the temperature always goes on decreasing. Okay, as soon as we will go up and the height will go on increasing, the temperature will keep on decreasing. Okay, so altitude plays a very important role in the climate. Why? Because a place at higher altitude will have a cooler climate than another places on the plains. Third one is the location with respect to the sea. Whether place is located near the sea or far away from the sea. Seawater heats up slowly and also cools down slowly. This has a moderating effect on the climate of the coastal areas. The temperatures in coastal areas are neither very high nor very low. Okay, and also because of the breeze, so humidity also is there because amount of water vapor. Okay, so these are the three factors, or I can say four factors that affect the climate: temperature, rainfall, altitude, and location with respect to the sea. Okay, if the temperature, again I say, if the temperature is very high, then the climate is hot. If the temperature is low, then the climate is cold. Okay, and if the amount of rainfall is high, then the climate is said to be humid. Similarly with the altitude, as we go higher, the place at a higher altitude will have a cooler climate. Okay, and then location with respect to sea, I hope it is clear. Let's move on to the next topic: mean temperature. What do you mean by the term mean? The term means refer to average. Okay, so the mean temperature for a given month is found in two steps. First, we find the average of the temperatures recorded during the month. Okay, and second, we calculate the average of such average temperatures over many years. So if for a place we have to calculate a mean temperature, we have to find the average temperatures recorded during the month, and then we calculate the average of such average temperatures over many years. Okay, now the mean temperatures are found for the maximum as well as minimum temperatures for a place, or you can say for a place for a month. Now Srinagar is situated at high altitude on a mountain in northern part of India, whereas Thiruvananthapuram is situated on plains at sea level in the southwest part of India. Srinagar is located very far away from sea, whereas Thiruvananthapuram is located near the sea. Third, Srinagar is located quite far away from the equator, whereas Thiruvananthapuram is comparatively nearer to the equator. So due to their different positions on earth, Srinagar and Thiruvananthapuram have entirely different climates. See students, what happens on the equator, that is said to be the midline, the sun's heat or sun's radiations come directly overhead, as we discussed. Okay, why does the climate is so extreme? So the place that will be near to the equator will always be hot, and the place that will be away from the equator, as you move away from the equator towards the pole, the temperature keeps on decreasing. So that's why that Srinagar is located quite far away from the equator, whereas Thiruvananthapuram is comparatively nearer to the equator. Also Srinagar is located very far away from the sea, and Thiruvananthapuram is just located near the sea. Okay, another part that the temperature is low in Srinagar and high in Thiruvananthapuram is Srinagar is situated at high altitude on a mountain in northern part of India, whereas Thiruvananthapuram is situated on the plains. So that's why also the Thiruvananthapuram has higher temperature as compared to Srinagar. Okay, in Srinagar the temperature around the year are neither very low nor very high. Also the rainfall is neither very low nor very high. Thus Srinagar has a moderately hot and wet climate. Okay, in Thiruvananthapuram the temperature around the year are quite high. Also the rainfall is very high. Thus Thiruvananthapuram has a very hot and wet climate. Okay students, so these were the some factors that differentiate the weather of Srinagar from Tiruvananthapuram. These are the same factors that we discussed, whether it is the position away from the equator, whether it is the position with respect to the sea, okay, or whether it is the position with respect to height, because Srinagar is situated on high altitude, so it is low temperature. Okay, Rajasthan state lies in the western region of India. In Rajasthan, the temperature is very high during most part of the year, so it is very hot. Rajasthan receives very little rainfall, so it is dry. Thus, the climate of Rajasthan is hot and dry. This is the typical desert climate. And if we talk about the northeast India, like Assam, it receives rain for a major part of the year. Therefore, we can say that the climate of northeast India is wet. Again, two extreme conditions, Rajasthan and the northeast India. Rajasthan lies in the western region of India. In Rajasthan, the temperature is very high during the most part of the year and very little rainfall, so it is also dry. So the climate of Rajasthan is very hot and dry, a desert climate. Whereas in northeast India, like Assam, it receives rain for major part of the year. Therefore, we can say that the climate of northeast India is wet. So weather is the day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place, whereas climate is the average weather pattern at a place taken over a long period of time. So this is the basic difference between weather and climate. Weather is the day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place, whereas climate is the average weather pattern taken at a place over a long period of time. Okay, students. So this was all related to the climate. We have completed now weather and climate. I hope it is clear to you. Okay, students, study it properly, learn it, make notes. In the next video, we will be discussing and we will be starting the new topic, that is the adaptations. Okay, stay inside your house, keep studying and take care of yourselves. Thank you.